So, good afternoon, everybody. So, today's topic, could this put us at risk? What am I talking about? I'm talking about the advent of AI trucking. Now, most of you have already talked about this or certainly have heard about it in some way, shape, or form. Well, yesterday I had the opportunity to go to a convention which was sponsored by my industry and several others, and we discussed the ramifications of AI and actually had a trucking company there. Now, their approach was a bit different from some others I've seen. They're actually taking a diesel Peterbilt style truck and adding the sensor array, the intelligent computer, the navigation software to make it a self-driving semi. This is different from Rivian and a couple other companies that are making an electric, think of a supersized Tesla truck, but a semi-size to drive around. There are pros and cons to the electric versus diesel. I'm not going to get into that. I just want to talk about the AI trucking in general. Now, a few things they did point out, which were interesting, is 80% of the incidents that happen with commercial CDL type traffic is either driver negligence, a driver tired, driver under the effect of a substance, or the driver is distracted. They also pointed out that, at least in this part of Texas, despite millions of cars being on the road, 30 to 40% of the accidents that happen involve a semi. And the semis represent a much smaller percentage than those few million cars that are out there. So how do we look at this? Well, on the one hand, when we have emergencies, right? CDL type drivers, they need to shut down after every so many hours because people get tired. Computer won't get tired, hypothetically. So you'd be able to drive more hours, reduce the amount of time waiting for product, which means products get to the market quicker, and you can move more material faster because you basically don't have to shut a driver down for their mandatory 8-hour sleep. They basically can just keep going. Other than refueling and any repairs, the vehicles can keep going. On the flip side, one, you're putting drivers out of work, but two, what if there's a malfunction? What if there's an unforeseen situation where the vehicle basically needs intervention? Now, this particular company is called Kodiak, and what I thought was very interesting is that there is a driver cab in the truck. So in certain states actually require a driver to be present while you go through their state. The driver sits there, the truck drives itself, but the driver can literally disconnect the AI portion from the truck and take it over as if it were simply a standard semi. So there are benefits to both. The states are all over the map with regulation. Some were talking about making it required that when they're on a lonely stretch of highway, you don't need a driver, right? AI can take over because you're on a flat road for 5, 6, 10 hours. But when you get into a city, the truck pulls over to a designated stop and a driver has to physically be in the cab to make sure the computer doesn't make a mistake. Of course, we've all seen the movie Leave the World Behind, where the electric cars run amok, and there's always the risk of being hacked or a software error. We've seen videos of Cybertrucks getting shut down in the left lane because they had a software glitch and the thing just ran off the road. So there's still a lot of moving parts. Now, do I think there's a threat? Definitely. Again, the AI doesn't recognize a threat. It has a computer glitch. The system gets hacked and the trucks run amok. Definitely a threat. On the flip side, when you have an emergency like a hurricane, a flood, some other SHTF, now you're trying to find qualified drivers who have enough hours on their books to do those supply runs, whereas you could, for instance, have 5, 6, 7, 8 semis assigned to, say, a FEMA or some other material holding center like a staging point, and basically people load the truck and tell it go to this drop-off point, and the semis could just keep going up and down. You don't have to wait for a driver to get sleep. You don't have to get rest. You can mix in the automated trucks with drivered trucks, so you can multiply the amount of material you can get to an emergency situation. So there's good and bad. They're going to have to put some safeguards into it. But in any case, it was really interesting just hearing the pros and cons. Also, one cop, there was some state troopers there, and one of them pointed out, well, what if I have to pull it over? What if it's having an issue? Who do I pull over? It's a truck. Do I get in front of it? It'll run me over. Like, the cops had a lot of questions too. And to be fair, they're the ones who are going to be the first guys on a scene if there's a problem. So a lot of good discussion. And I think it's important as a society when some new technology like this comes out that people have an honest, open conversation about it, which is what happened yesterday. We actually had a luncheon. They had speakers for and against. They talked about new highways. They talked about AI trucking. We had cops. We had city officials. We had the mayor. We had professionals like myself, engineers, architects, everybody talking at the tables, talking to each other, asking questions. And that, my friends, is how a community starts to really dig into what's best for them. So if you get a chance to go to things like that, don't say, it doesn't make a difference. Definitely go there. Ask some questions, make some friends, and find out and know what's going on in your area. If you walk away with anything from this video about AI trucking, is to be aware of what's going on, the pros and cons, so that you can be informed. And if there is a danger or threat to you, you can plan accordingly. Anyway, I'm going to leave you with that. Comment below, what are your thoughts on AI trucking? Is it great, reduce costs, be able to bring more assets, more material to an emergency zone? Or is it dangerous? Hackers, computer failures, and then people may get hurt. What do you think? Put it in the comments below, and thanks for joining me for a rather interesting topic. You guys be good and be safe out there.